Welcome back to the Bars Cars YouTube channel. On this episode, we're going to talk about making a custom exhaust for the Silverado. So today, I'm going to start pulling the old exhaust off. I'll kind of go over real quick what the setup is. So right now, I did throw a set of Speed Engineering headers on this thing with their Y-pipe. So it's got a Speed Engineering header set up, Y-pipe, and we got a Flowmaster 40 series in place of the stock muffler. This has not been on there very long because, quite honestly, it sounds not the best. On a road trip, this thing is very loud. It gets very annoying, very drony, very quickly. So put these headers on not long ago just to test them out, try it. And ever since then, it's been very raspy on the top end when you have your foot in the throttle, but also it's been very drony when you are running down the highway. So we're going to work on fixing that, and we're going to be upgrading some things so that we have some more exhaust flow for the new engine that we're going to be tackling the install on very shortly. So this is all stock piping, basically from the Y-pipe back. Just cut the stock muffler out and put the Flowmaster in place. So once I get it pulled out of here, I'll kind of show you what it was, and we'll go from there. We're going to be building a custom sort of single 4-inch exhaust for this. I'm not a huge fan of the dual exhaust layouts on these trucks because you can't really run a proper dual over on the driver's side where the gas tank fits on these trucks. So rather than running them over and coming out the same side and then back out over to the driver's side, we're just going to run a 4-inch single that I picked up. That is a catback kit for a diesel, and we're going to modify that to fit, and we'll show you the process along the way of how we're going to do that. So let's get started. Okay, just got the exhaust out from under the truck. I got everything except for the headers off, leaving the headers on because I'm gonna have to do a little bit of mock-up and fitment and stuff. I will wind up pulling them off to do a couple things, but for right now I need to leave them on there. So this is what we had under the truck. I figured it'd be easier for me to pull it out and show you. So we had the Speed Engineering Y-pipe up there, their little adapter deal to the factory piping with the flex there, to this Flowmaster that, yes, I'm aware was definitely not a good install, but I wanted to try something, and honestly I've hated this muffler ever since I put it on there. Flowmasters and LS engines don't mix in my opinion. So I've hated it ever since I put that on, and it only got worse when I put the headers and the Y-pipe in, and then, like I said, just stock tailpipe out the back. To me, a Flowmaster just does not pull any of the right sounds out of an LS. They make them sound way too tinny and raspy, and they drone awful. So I've hated this thing since I put it in, and I'm super happy to be getting rid of it. So now that we've shown you what I pulled out, we're going to show you some of the things I'm going to be putting back in. So I did test fit the Y-pipe as it was. We're going to be putting in a couple of these Flowmaster high flow cats. So I'm going to wind up modifying that Y-pipe and getting some cats in there. That's going to be really tight on the driver's side. Hopefully we can make that fit without too much issue. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Passenger side shouldn't be an issue. I got a ton of room on this pipe right here to get it in. We're going to wind up taking this Y-pipe and cutting it right in this area and stretching it to go to the 4-inch, because that is 3.5 right now. So I'm going to have to stretch that up to a 4-inch so that we can meet the rest of the exhaust system. I have another flex joint. I bought a 4-inch flex so I can have a small flex joint up front with like where the stock one was. Try and get some of the vibration and the noise out of it. And then I have a nice shiny tip for this thing, so I did a little bit of practicing on the tip of the tailpipe. Have not got to do any stainless TIG welding, so I wanted to do a couple passes trying to dial in myself and the welder. Still not the best, but it'll be going underneath and you won't really see it, so be good practice basically at this point. So anyway, now that we got that set up, I'm going to crawl under and we're going to try and test fit some cats and see what we're going to do there. Oh, that's the other thing, is we're going to be going V-band. So these slip joints that are on this thing suck. You can see in all the different joints here that this thing has leaked since I put it together. So these slip joints, I knew these were cheaper headers. They actually fit pretty decent. There's a couple little spots that we're probably going to be tweaking. You could adjust a little more and probably get them to quit. I had one spot touching by the cross member, and it's really tight to the trans pan on a 6L80, but I hate trying to get it in and out. When you clamp the bands down tight enough to try and make them not leak, then it squishes the pipe and you can't get the stuff apart. So we're going to be putting V-bands in right on the headers, and then white one on the end of the Y pipe, right where I hook the flex up. So we're going to V-band that part so that it'll come right out, and then I'll just slip fit the muffler with some stainless band clamps like so. So it'll just slip fit and come right out, and those will not crush down like this style of clamp tends to do, because that one doesn't actually like seal it, it just tries to squish the pipe, whereas the step band like this will actually help form a seal. So these are usually pretty good about not leaking. So we're going to fix some exhaust leaks, make it more serviceable, all that good stuff. So we'll go ahead and start test fitting the cats and see what we can do. Alright, so I'm laying down here under the truck and done some couple trims and some test fitting and stuff. So I got the short part of the pipe over here on the driver's side collector is what you're looking at. So underneath the trans pan, and the Y pipe comes up over here on the passenger side. Initially I had wanted to, these are very small cats because I knew I didn't have a lot of real estate, and I wanted to put that right up here. However, I don't think that's really going to work because I'm limited on my space back here up against the cross member. And the other thing is, if you look up in here, I have to be able to still get the front O2 sensor in there, and I just don't quite have the real estate. I'm, you know, an inch or two short from what I really should have to make that fit nicely, because I also have to be able to fit the V-band up there on the collector to be able to get that out, which is going to add another inch or so. So that's just not going to fit in there. So what I'm going to have to do is, this is not ideal, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. It doesn't hang down that low. This pipe and the factory exhaust even runs very close to this transmission pan to begin with, and the cat is obviously over about where the collector, where the tubes come into the collector on the driver's side. So this exhaust is already pretty hot under here. So what I'm going to wind up having to do is I'm going to fit the cat up right about here, and I'm going to leave, you know, half inch or so up there. I might be able to try and whip up some kind of heat shield or wrap this cat or something to try and keep some of the heat out of the transmission pan. But the Y pipe to begin with already fit extremely close right in this area. It actually like was about a paper slipper right there. It was really close, and I kept adjusting on it. I couldn't seem to get it to stop. I couldn't get it any further away. So with this, I'm actually gonna be able to fix that problem where it was a little bit tight right here on that bump on the corner of the 6L80 pan. And I'm gonna be able to drop this down just a little bit by reworking this piping some, and I'll get myself a little bit of gap, and I think I'll stick it right here. So I'm gonna start with getting this cat set up to be welded onto that pipe, and then I'll be able to then adjust my forward and back and know how much I have to trim out to fit the V-band over there. So I'm gonna work on, to get this thing to sit where I want, I have to add about an inch over here. My pipe's just a little bit short. So I'm going to cut, and basically I'm gonna wind up cutting this off because I need this leg shorter anyway to be able to make the bend into the Y pipe. So I'm gonna cut an inch off of right here. That'll get me where I need to be, and then I will weld that on over here, and I can weld that to the pipe. So that's what we're gonna start with. So we'll start with cutting that off. I'm gonna come up here. I really wish I had a chop saw for this, but we're gonna have to try and do it with the old trusty Sawzall there and try and make this a nice clean square cut. I'm pretty good about getting it square, but we are TIGging this, so I gotta try and get the fitment pretty good. So hopefully I can make this look halfway decent. I guess we'll find out. So I'm gonna wind up cutting that little piece off, weld it on over here. Then I will pull that pipe off where it's connecting to the driver's side collector, and we'll weld it on. So I got this cut. You can see got about an inch piece here. Yes, there is a slight taper cut on this, kind of by accident, but it's actually going to work well. You can see that that's leaned off just a little bit. The reason for that is where the bend comes around the cross member is probably going to wind up coming in at just a slight angle, and also on this side where we go over to that driver's side collector is going to come in at a very slight angle, because I'm trying to get the piping to drop down just a little bit to give me a little extra clearance on the body of this cat. So we're not going to come in at a perfect fitment there, so that couple of degrees is going to help that sort of blend together a little bit better, so it's going to work out just fine. So I got this all cleaned up. I'm going to wire brush this up real quick with the bench grinder. We'll set this thing up and weld this piece on right here, kind of like so, and that will get me that extra inch or so of length that I need to fit it up to that other pipe that's still in the truck. Alright, so I got that welded on there. Obviously this is not the prettiest TIG welds. I'm working on it, practicing, but it's definitely going to hold. I got decent penetration all the way around. I know this would look a lot prettier if I back purged it, but for what we're doing, that's not really going to be necessary. But has decent penetration. We'll work on making it look prettier. So I got that piece welded on. Now I can test fit it underneath the truck. Alrighty, so this is not the best fitment, I will admit, so it probably is going to leave something to be desired as far as how it looks, but I got the cat tacked into place and I've test fit this thing. I had to move it once or twice because it took me a minute to realize why did that keep hitting the cross member. But if you actually take a look at this pipe, when they welded these together, when Speed Engineering made that Y pipe, they missed their clocking here. This should have been this right here should have been angled forward more. So what I was running into is the cat was wanting to come out at an angle and tilt toward the back of the truck. It would hit the cross member. Now I can adjust that when I trim this up right here and weld the V-band on, so that's not a big deal, but I wanted it to fit parallel to the cross member when I had it put together, so that I get the pipes to fit up. So remember the angle that I talked about, I actually want to have to put that toward the rear to kick the cat forward just a little bit and make that fit. So now that I kind of got that worked out, it does clear the transmission pan nicely. I got 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4, something like that. Enough for me to try and get some kind of heat shield wrapped around this thing. I still got a little bit of fluff as far as room. So I'm going to go ahead and try and make this work. I had to expand this pipe slightly because the inside of these cats are a little bit more than for what you need to have for a 3-inch pipe. So I wound up having to break out the expander right there and actually expand this out a little bit. And I expanded a little bit too much for a slip fit, but not quite enough for a butt fit. But the butt fit wasn't going to do very well with my Sawzall cut anyway. It wasn't quite perfectly straight, which I knew it wasn't going to be. So we're going to have to kind of deal with a little bit of fit up issues. It's going to take some fill rod, but I think I can make it look okay. Alrighty. Not the prettiest, I will admit, but my fit up was also not the prettiest, and I haven't really done much stainless TIG welding, but it's on there. So I got the cat welded on. Now we're going to have to move over here. So this was a slip joint, so I'm going to have to cut directly at the edge of this expansion here where they expanded it so it slip fits. I'm going to cut right there, clean this up, and we're going to go ahead and get our V-band fit. So then I know how much I'm going to have to trim off of the header collector to get it to fit properly and get my depth set. I can't cut too much off of here because basically right at the back of the step is where it starts to go into the bend. So unfortunately, the easiest thing for me to do would be cut more out of this, but I'm going to wind up having to cut off of this and then trim a little off the end of the collector, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, something like that, to fit the width of the V-band in here. Okay, so in order to get the V-band fit up, I went ahead and pulled the header out of the driver's side here. Helps if you pull steering shaft off of the column up there and off of the rack. You might be able to fish it in and out, but it's really tight and kind of a pain to get it out. On the driver's side, it wants to come out the top with these Speed Engineering ones. I don't know about some of the other ones, but it wants to come out the top. You can't get it out the bottom because of the diff mount down there, and it hits the cab. So you got to pull it up and out. So I got it out. And I did some measuring. I need to cut about 1 3/8 inches, 1.5 off. I'm gonna double check my measurements. I cut this off, pulled the O2 sensor out, went ahead and got it set up here, and got my V-band tacked. So I did a little bit of measuring, a little bit of checking, and that's where we're gonna have to be to get this to set in the right place. Not too far back and hits the cross member, not too far forward and hits the transpan. So okay, so I just test fit the header, test fit the driver side pipe with the cat on it and stuff, and everything seems to fit pretty good. I actually thought I was going to be trimming again, but it wound up being a little bit further forward than what I thought it was going to be. So we got plenty of clearance from the cross member. We also have plenty of clearance up on the transpan, so I'm happy with where it's laying. So we're going to go ahead and burn this together. So when you're doing these V-bands, I went ahead and put both halves together, got it clamped up nice and snug, so that this doesn't warp. I want to make sure that when I put this together, that this face on this V-band is still nice and flat. Don't want any leaks. That's the whole purpose of me putting these on here, is because the slip joints leaked, so I don't want the V-bands leaking either. And then I'll switch out the header and get the V-band welded up on that. We'll get those done. I can put the header back in for good for right now and be done with it. Got this part that's really welded. I'm gonna give this thing a few minutes to cool in between. I don't want to get that V-band too hot. As you've seen, I was kind of bouncing around from place to place to do 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches at a time, and kind of let it cool down. So I'm gonna give it a few minutes, let it cool, then we'll spin it around and we'll go through and connect the dots. Okay, so I got the driver's side header fit up, got the collector and the V-band all welded together. So now I'm working on getting the passenger side fit up. So I have the Y pipe cut here, and we got, this is what our fitment's looking like. So I'm leaving some room here. I found Heat Shield Products has some metal encased heat shielding that's meant for catalytic converters. So I'm gonna wind up getting some of that and wrapping this cat, and I'll just go ahead and wrap this one too. And so I pulled the passenger header out, did some measuring, trimmed the collector down. I got the V-band tacked right now, and then I got the V-band tacked on the cat just for mock-up. So I'll go ahead and throw the Y-pipe up in here and we'll see how it's fitting. I got it pretty well trimmed, and I just want to do a quick double check on that before I actually start to weld everything in place. I'm going to have to get the welder down here and tack a couple places on these cats and get that Y-pipe together. Then I can pull the whole thing out and weld everything up. Alright, so got the pipe laid in here. I got this fit pretty good. I'm gonna have to expand that joint right there just slightly. And I got this where it's fitting pretty good in the cat. I got plenty of clearance of the cross member and off of the floor. I'm kind of holding this right now because otherwise it'll fall. I don't have a whole lot of engagement in there. I wanted it close to you know, a tight fit and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark this, and then we'll pull it all out and start welding. I'm gonna probably expand this and do one more test fit and just make sure everything fits nice and tight. Got everything test fit. I did a little bit of expansion right here to make this fit tighter in the cat, and over here, as you can see, I've got it out. I've already started welding on it a little bit. So this is kind of what the finished layout's going to be: V-band, and then we'll wind up expanding and putting a V-band right here. So this pops out nice and easy. It slides in and out. There's no more pulling the trans cross member and a bunch of work to get this in and out. You can pop it in 2-3 minutes, crawl into there, knock the V-bands off, and out it comes. Should have enough where we shouldn't need a flex joint here. The header's got a little bit of flex in it, and this piping's got a little bit of flex. So as it heats and expands, we should be good. So I'm gonna go ahead and start finish welding this out. So I went to test fit everything here, and I did have a minor issue. You see I had to cut my tacks here and reposition this V-band just a little bit, and I actually had to put a small slice here. So what had happened, apparently when I welded this, either one of the other of these connections, or maybe both of them, I had a little bit of warpage. I tried to hit some spots, you know, do inch and a half at a time and let it cool and move from one side to the other, but it didn't really work out, and I had a little bit of warpage. And when I tightened it up over on the driver's side V-band there, I had a little gap right here.
And when I pulled it together, I could pull it together. It was about, you know, 1/16 of an inch on the one side, about 1/8 of an inch on the other side. So I could pull it together and get the one side touch, but then I still had a slight gap over here toward the frame rail. So I did a small slit right here and tweaked that pipe some. That was, like I said, my bad. I got a little too much heat in it, and then I cut these tacks and sort of let everything move a little bit. You have a small amount of movements that you can get out of these V-bands where they actually go in the pipe. So I cut the tacks and put just a couple small ones on there and tighten the clamp up and let it sort of level everything out where it wants to be. And I still got plenty of area around all the way to weld it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of tacks over here on the cat and a couple on this V-band, and hope that nothing moves, and I'll be a little bit slower this time, shorter welds, more time in between cooling, and hope that it doesn't warp. I know this stuff moves around a good bit, but when you're trying to get a V-band here and a V-band over there, everything's got to fit up perfect, otherwise you're going to be pulling it and causing piping to crack and stuff. And I'm trying to make this last as long as possible. Ideally, a little flex somewhere on this crossover would probably help eliminate that, but the factory Y pipe from the manifolds and stuff doesn't have a flex, so it shouldn't have any issues of cracking as long as I get it to fit nicely and not have any strains while it's clamped up. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack it. We'll pull it out, finish weld it, and double check it.
Okay, so haven't really been good about filming updates here. I was having some fitment issues. That Y pipe is trying to move around on me when I was welding it, so trying to get it to fit back in has been a challenge. Still not fully fitting the best. I got a gap on the driver's side that's not wanting to tighten up, so I'm gonna have to keep working with that. I may put it together and let it run a couple heat cycles and see if it kind of relaxes. I had to bend it some at the Y pipe joint and try to get it back, and that helped some, but I think with a couple of heat cycles maybe it'll relax some. So I'll show you what we got here. So up on the Y pipe, I've got the V-bands all welded on the cat and on the header. Both sides got the cat put in onto the transpan. You can see I got a good bit of clearance under there. It might look a little tight, but it's actually pretty good. I got plenty of room to put some wrap on that and try and keep the heat off the transpan. Back here is where we started running into some issues though with the Y pipe. So when I'll pull this out in a minute and show you, but I was having some issues with trying to get that Y pipe to go up to 4-inch, so I'll pull it out and show you. And that's kind of where some of my problems came in, was trying to get that to expand and fit, and it was making that the Y flex and basically spread the two it was spreading the two pipes apart from each other, causing some header fitment issues. So I had to kind of work that back into place. But then underneath on the back, I've started putting some of the stuff in. So I got the muffler hanging and I got the tailpipe hanging back in there. I just kind of got it set up to mock it up. Haven't fully installed yet, but I got them kind of hanging up in there. And what I'm working on right now before I kind of start final fitting is I have this mid pipe over here that I'm cutting to get it to fit. So this exhaust that I bought is actually for I think like a 06, 07 Duramax. So this is actually for like a GMT 800 truck. So I just cut this off and it was right here like so. So that was kind of that little hump pipe in the center to get over the cross members for like the trans and the torsion bars and stuff. But this needs to get shortened. The step is too big. This side's fine, but this side's not. It offsets the pipe too far. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting this and welding it, and then I'm gonna test fit everything and adjust anything else as necessary, and then I'll pull the Y pipe out and finish weld it. And if I gotta do any adjusting on the tailpipe and the muffler and the hangers and stuff, I'll do that. But right now I'm gonna cut this. There's about 5 inches or so right here. I'm gonna wind up cutting this basically right here at the edge of the bend where I cut it on the edge of that bend. And we will cut this out and I'll get it tacked back together and test fit it and see. I think I got to trim just a little bit off of the end yet. I think it's still going to be like an inch or two too long. I'll tack it together and see how much I got to cut off. and try and sort of dry fit everything before I finalize welding that last piece of that V-band, as well as getting this pipe is going to get welded to the flex. So then the flex will be right on the short end right here that you see. The flex will get welded onto there, so then I'll have a V-band break at the Y pipe right at the cross member. It'll slip fit into the muffler, and then it'll be slip fit out of the muffler to the tailpipe, so everything will be able to come apart and be nice and serviceable. I want everything to come apart easy if I do have to change anything, or if I have to pull it out to work on something. So that's the whole point of the V-bands. Before the Y pipe, you used to have to pull the transmission cross member out to get the Y pipe in and out, because of the slip fits on the collector and everything. You couldn't get it out. Now with the V-bands, you don't have to drop the trans cross member to get that in and out. It'll slide right up in there, pop the V-bands on, and there you go. So as long as I can get it to where it's fitting a little bit tighter, it should take you 5 minutes to drop the thing out. So we'll go ahead and get started on getting this cut the rest of the way, getting it tacked together, and I'll test fit it and we'll show you what we got. All right, so I got this thing trimmed up and I got tack welded in place. Got just a tiny gap right there, but fits up decent. So this is what we were going for. I cut this much out of that jog and pipe, so this will give me just a little bit of extra clearance for that cross member that you've seen under the truck. That's right about kind of at the doors here, at the door seam. So that'll give me some clearance, but I didn't need that much. It was going to offset the pipe too far and it wasn't fitting real good. So I cut that out. We'll go ahead and get this finish welded, and I'm going to have to cut about 3 inches off. This is a just shy of 43 inches overall length, and I need about 39 and a half, 39 3/4. I'll start with 3/4 and make sure if that fits, or if I got to trim a little more off. So I'll get this welded up here. Okay, so quick update. Got headers all bolted back in. Everything's tightened up. Steering shaft's back in. Got the plug wires back on. Everything's good to go there. Underneath, roll under here, we got the Y pipe installed for the final time. Got the O2 sensor on the header hooked back up. You can see the wire up there. Got everything fitting good. Did a little bit of tweaking on this and got it where it's not twisted too much. It lines up pretty good on the header again. Stuff's really what I've learned so far is that this is really finicky to movement when you get welding on it. Got the V-bands all finished welded right there, and all the hangers look like they're going to work pretty good. This one needs just a slight twist on the rod, and that'll line up good, so I'm just gonna have to give it a little bend. Tailpipe, same situation. So what I got here is, like I said, got the V-band all welded up. That one turned out way nicer. My welding's getting a little better, but this is all some fresh, clean stuff, so I think that's helping a little bit. Some of it's probably me improving, but so what we got here is I got that cut and fit. Everything fits pretty good. I had to do a slight angle on this V-band. You can kind of see it there, to get it to line up a little nicer. I got this flex, but I'm trying not to put the flex in too much of a bind when it's all locked in. So I did have to take like a 1/4 inch or so off of this one side, just put a slight angle on it so that everything fits a little bit more relaxed. I might have missed my clocking. I kind of had everything lined up. I thought I had it clocked pretty good, but I think I might have missed this just a little bit up here. So we just kind of adjusted on this V-band just a little bit. So right now I got this test fit. My length is good. I got it where I had it trimmed, was happy. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this welded up, and that'll be the final weld. I'll just have to tweak that last mount underneath, and we'll start going through and tightening everything up. getting a little bit better. Some of them are better than others. I'm learning that some of this is some heat management I got to work on just a little bit, and it tends to look a little better. Like these ones here, I had a little better heat management. You're kind of fighting this. That slip fit's not perfect, so you're kind of chasing an edge sometimes. It wants to, if you get it a little too hot, then this starts to dip, and you're trying to, almost like you're trying to blow a hole in it. So I got some spots that's better than others. We're getting there, a little more practice, but I'll go ahead and let this cool off. I think I've seen one spot over here. I got just that little dip right there. I'm gonna fill in. We'll let this thing sit and cool down, and then I'll get it put under the truck, and we'll go through and start tightening the rest of it up. We can start it up really soon. All right, so I got the mid pipe in. I'll show you that in a second. Trying to get this hanger to bend just a little bit. As you can see, the angle that it's on, I need that more straight. So I'm gonna try and get this thing hot just a little bit right here, and see if I can get that to twist. Tried getting a little bend out of this. I got some of it not so much. It's trying to roll the bottom part of this U-bracket, and I don't want to twist that all up, so I got a little bit out of it. It's gonna be close enough. So I got that set up, and I'm gonna get this tightened up. I got a step band clamp right here to put in front of the muffler. I need to go get 2 more of these to put behind. Right now I'm just going to put those U clamps like this one back there. I don't really like using those because they try to crush the pipe, and it makes it really hard to get it apart if you ever need to take the system out for some reason to work on anything or whatever. So these don't do that. So I'll put those U clamps on back there and try not to tighten them up too much, just enough to hold it for right now until I can get 2 more of those. All right, so we got the truck out, got the first fire up done. Looks pretty good. I'll take you underneath and show you what everything looks like. Looks pretty good. So out back now, got a 5-inch stainless tip. Did a bunch of adjusting on this tailpipe and got it where I'm pretty happy with it. Hangs pretty decent under there. Like I said, still got to get some step band clamps for up there on the joints there, as well as if we come up on the back side of the muffler here. Got to get a step band for that as well. We got that big 30-inch bodied Magnaflow 4-inch muffler. This thing's huge. And as we come forward, like I said, I got a step band on right here. Another hanger. So all the factory hangers are on. And then come up front, we got our flex joint in, as well as the V-band. So the back part of this exhaust system, the 4-inch kit, we showed you everything up front, got it all final installed, everything fits really good. I got to get the heat shield for the cats on the way, but for right now it's good enough. So this kit, I don't know if I mentioned it already, but the kit for the exhaust system was a catback kit, 4-inch catback kit for a 06, 07 Duramax. So actually a GMT 800 body, classic truck. So like an LBZ truck is actually what I ordered that for. So if you're looking to do a 4-inch single exhaust on your 07 to 13 half ton, it's almost a direct bolt in. All the hangers are the same. I showed you I tweaked that one. It was bent just a little bit. Weird, so I did have to fix that. The only thing that I had to modify, literally every other hanger worked, every pipe fit. The only other thing I had to do was shorten that S pipe just a little bit. I showed you cutting that. So right here where I had to cut that S pipe and shorten it, I had to take about 5 inches out of it because it would have hit the floor and it would not have lined up very good back here. So it was the only thing that I did was just cut and shorten that, took that piece out. You could have probably got away with a straight right there, but I like the S. It gave me just a little bit more. It's not sitting in there kind of straight up and down. It's sort of on an angle, but it gave me just a little more clearance over that cross member, tons of room under the cab and stuff like that. So it fit pretty good. So now that you've seen everything assembled and under there, we'll go ahead and get a video of startup as well as driving. I did spoil it, sorry. I've already started it. Sounds really good now. but we'll go ahead and start it up. Let's see it. So we're gonna start this up with a nice little remote start. It is cold, hasn't been driven in a couple days. So cold start, let you listen to it. Settling down now. So overall, very happy with this setup. I may need to add a quarter wave resonator or something to it later for some drone. It's really doesn't have much drone, like 1600 RPM right now. It does have a spot where it's kind of droney, but it's not that bad. Compared to that, this thing sounds 100 times better. It's very deep, very throaty. Kind of has, I would say, for the old school guys, kind of a big block like sound now with the deep exhaust note. It's much quieter. I would call the noise, exhaust noise, much more linear. So it tends to just rise more so with RPM, rather than that one would get very drone sensitive under like low RPM, high load, like cruising down the road, pulling a little bit of a hill in overdrive. This one's much nicer to ride and drive around with, but it still has some good sound when you want it. So we'll go ahead and get a couple driving videos. So cruising 55, pretty quiet. Drone is very little, if any. Nice mellow, quiet in the cab, a little bit more noise than like a stock exhaust system, but a whole lot better than the Flowmaster. Give you a quick kick down here. Alright, give you a real quick 0 to 60 here. Alrighty guys, that's going to wrap it up for the exhaust build episode on the Silverado. Next episode, we're going to tackle the 6.2 swap. I'm going to go through everything you need to know as far as what it's going to take for you to go from a 5.3 to a 6.2. It'll also cover 6.0 as well. Basically everything's going to be same on that front. It's a very simple, straightforward swap, but I'll cover the few differences when we get into it. So that's going to wrap the exhaust up. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next upload.